This conference will now be recorded.
All right, everybody. Hey, thank you very much for getting on a line here this evening. My name is Don Latimore, and this is our weekly Elite Business League call. I will say this is one of those topics that I truly, truly like to talk about, which is, how do you work with real estate investors? Okay. And the reason why I like this topic so much, one is because many of you know that Latoya and I, we are real estate investors. We were real estate investors before we became real estate agents. So I've been invested in real estate probably for the past, 14 years or so. And I like to talk about that kind of where it started because some of the first, properties that I had, I eventually sold and, made some money and, went to go do it again and again and again. And so that's some of the things that you want to continue to keep doing, as a real estate investor. But again, the reason why I like this topic, especially as a real estate agent, is because of what it allows you to be able to do as a real estate agent, but in this sector. All right. A lot of people don't understand this piece. Okay. So here's some things that I want to start off, telling everybody before I even jump into the kind of the meat and the potatoes and what I want to talk about here tonight. Oftentimes, most real estate agents don't like working with real estate investors. And sometimes people might be asking, well, why don't people like to work with real estate investors? Well, because if you're not careful, some wannabe real estate investors can really, really, really take up a lot of your time, and they have absolutely positively no means to actually be able to invest in the real estate. So I was actually one of those guys, right? And, before we got a real estate license, I was one of those guys, in which, we had some real estate agents and we were asking them, hey, go and find us some properties. I need to make sure the properties, will yield us X amount of dollars, just all the kind of normal stuff, right? And I remember some of those real estate agents, man, they were working hard. And oftentimes we never closed on anything. And it really wasn't much to me. I said, well, that property doesn't fit my numbers, and so I just can't make it work, so whatever, right? Or I'll go in and I'll throw some bogus offer in on this property, and like, well, it just doesn't work, right? And then the offers will never get accepted. So, the agents, they continue to keep trying to find properties, but nothing was ever closing. So I was one of those people that it was a time waster. And even though I was somebody that would actually buy, but, it was also at the same time a time waster. All right. So, again, tonight I'm going to talk to you all about, how do you handle, real estate investors? How do you really build your business, around lots of people that are real estate investing? Because it can really work well for your business, be really, really lucrative if you know what you are doing. There was a post a few days ago, online, and there was a real estate agent that was actually talking about, some of the challenges that she was having, with a real estate investor. She was trying to make her client, so she was trying to have them, sign a buyer agency agreement, but she didn't know how to have that to occur. All right. And so, I had a big, huge post, giving her my recommendations on some of the things that she can do. And, she thanked me. And then there was a whole bunch of other real estate agents that came back and said, hey, great feedback. I do something similar. But it's just kind of over time where you kind of know some of the things that you want to do. So, again, I want to cover some of these things here with you tonight. Okay. So, again, just like I said, tonight is about working with investor clients. And that's important because as the market tends to shift, and we're entering into some shifting markets, if you don't shift your business at the same time to where you know how to work with investor clients, then you may find yourself to be out of the game because investors, they're always buying. So let's talk about some of the important notes right up top, right? Know that most investors want to buy properties at 70% of the after repair value or below. What does that mean? All right. So what that means to you as a real estate agent, just know that up front. Know that very important piece up front. Most investors, they are trained, the ones that are really out there, trying to, do investing at a high level, they look for 70% of the after repair value. Now you may ask, well, what is the after repair value? All right, so you have this property, it may be going for, I'll just throw out some bogus numbers, $50,000. All right, but the after repair value, meaning that after it gets renovated and it's back on the market, the area that this house is says this house can now be resold for $100,000. Okay, now oftentimes an investor, in order to get that level of that amount of data, they come to real estate agents for that, because we have the tools to where we can do accurate marketing analysis. We can do an analysis on the property beforehand. We can do an analysis on the property on the back end. But they want to know, okay, now this property, the after repair value is $100,000. So oftentimes they don't really care what it's listed for. I mean, they'll look at it, but they're not going to offer any more because they want to get it at a discount. Okay, so the best that they're going to do is they're going to offer $30,000 for that property because they want a spread. All right, so because they want enough spread to where there's enough skin in the game where they can do everything else they want to do. So just understand that spread. So $100,000 house, they're not going to pay any more than $30,000 to acquire the property. Then they're going to put in, okay, well, how much am I going to renovate? So all those numbers mean something to where you get to this bottom line figure. After you get to that bottom line figure, it's now, okay, great, here you go. It's being sold at $100,000. How much did I make after all of my expenses and everything else that I put down on the table? That's how an investor thinks. 70% of the after repair value is the maximum amount that they actually would want to purchase a property. Okay? And some of them even go down to 65%. That's a little bit more if they know that it's going to really sell. All right? But just understand that that's where their mind frame is. Okay? Now, second bullet point, an investor client is a gateway to more business. That's another key component. Again, there's a lot of agents out there that won't even mess with an investor because of the amount of time that it may take to work with those clients, because you're researching properties, you're interacting with those folks, you're trying to find them good deals, okay? And so, yes, that takes time. But understand, when I say they are a gateway to more deals, is because think about this. If you have an active real estate investor, and if you do some of the things that I'm talking about below, right, you have an active real estate investor, they're going to buy from you, and especially if they're going to do flips with you, they're going to buy and flip the house with you all at the same time. Okay? So not only did you acquire the property for whatever that amount is, let's say $50,000, now you can resell it for $125,000, right? Well, however you acquire that property at $50,000, you're going to get that percentage for that. And then they're going to pay you the percentage of the 125 or 150, however much that you can sell it for. And then they're going to come back and say that went great, let's rinse and repeat. So when you're working with an investor, those are the folks who want to constantly kind of have those deals running because they love to be able to make some money. So again, they're a gateway to more business. And the more investors that you get, now hear this out, right? Oftentimes most investors, they have like a cap on the amount of money that they would want to even invest because they like to stay under a certain amount. A lot of them do, right? They like to, hey, you know what? I want to resell. I don't want any properties that the after repair value is any more than $150,000 for the area because, most people will go out and they'll buy that property. So they like to stay under that dollar amount for the after repair value because why? Because they know they can resell that property a lot faster. All right. So if that is the case, then generally what happens is, all right, so now you're selling that property. And if you do some of the things that we talk about on Elite Business League by working the neighborhood when you have a home listed for sale, then that one property should yield you 2 to 3 more closed transactions. And so what you're doing is you're working with an investor to build your business and you're rinsing and repeating with somebody that's going to do it automatically. So then your goal is to say, okay, well, you ask the investor, well, get this, how many of these deals can you do at one time? And a lot of them say, well, I can only do maybe one, maybe two at one time. Okay, great. So now you're on a quest to find 3 or 4 investors that you can always have deals with going, helping them buy properties. They're utilizing their resources and everything else to, do the renovations. And now you are the listing person for that property. You're going to work the neighborhood like we always talk about, working a neighborhood to acquire more business. And it'd be real good because sometimes, if you do it right, now you're dual agency on the same property that you're listing for the investor. So you see how working with an investor can be a gateway to you having more business, but it's all about your perspective and how you're thinking about that. All right. So, we're going out always trying to chase new business, but when in reality, if you find some of those investors that really want to, pick up properties, and now when the market starts to shift, you will start to see more and more foreclosures. Investors are going to come out, especially the ones that have money. All right. So let's keep going. I want to, really dig into this topic a little bit tonight. Not take a lot of time, but just kind of dig into a few concepts. All right. So now I want to talk about some of the best types of investors as clients. There are all kinds of investors that are out there, all kinds. But for you being the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CTO, the CMO of your business, saying, how can I, structure my business and do things, do things the way that I want to be able to run and operate my business. Okay. You say, you know what? I want to be able to run my business in a manner in which I know I will constantly be able to have business. And what is that? 2 types, fix and flip, right? So I just talked about those, right? They're going to buy, and in 3 months or so, 4 months, they're going to flip it and they're going to do it again, rinse and repeat. We know that's a lot of repeat business, right? Then you have those that are going to buy and hold, all right? And you have some of those investors when they buy and hold, now their values that they have are going to be higher than those folks who want to just flip the property. Because the ones who want to flip the property, they want to make their spread now, to cover more of their costs now, and then rinse and repeat that way. Somebody who wants to buy and hold, they may not need necessarily a 70% spread because they're going to hold the property for a certain amount of time before they actually say, you know what, my exit strategy is going to be in 3 to 5 years, or 5 years to 7 years, however much it is for that investor. And then they say, okay, then I'm going to sell it when the market goes up and hits a certain point. But I can purchase because I have a whole network of other, financing folks that are, investing with me. So we may have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million to invest. So we just need you to find us the right deal to allow us to be able to do that, because we're going to rent these things out. And then once you get those people, you stay in contact with those people for your area. That is the goal. All right. So those are the 2 types that I really want to just kind of make sure that you're focusing on, because they will be the ones that are constantly going. It's like the velocity of money. All right. They're the ones who constantly, like I said, rinse and repeating. All right. So we're going to keep going here for a second. So let's talk about, where do you find these investors? Okay. And if you're looking at on your phones, I have this on my screen, or if you're on your computer, you can see some of my notes here. Now, let's talk about, where do you find these investors? Because they're all over. First and foremost, I will tell you, wherever, if you see on Facebook or online where somebody's hosting some free real estate investor seminar, trust me, there's going to be some investors there, or wannabe investors that are there. Okay. So they're not hard to find. You just got to open up the doors to your business and say, I want to make that one of my niches. And when you make that one of your niches, you can learn how do you work with them the right way. All right. So again, I'll talk about some of that tonight. So if you are listing properties, okay, I will tell you that if you list distressed properties, so properties that need to get renovated, trust me, real estate investors will come out of the woodwork. And then at that point, now all of them are not going to want your house. They're going to call you to find out some information about it. Remember, I said they want to know that 70%, that's what they're going to offer on it, yada, yada. So they're going to ask you, hey, what's the after repair value? They're going to ask you all these questions. Your job when you get those phone calls is to do the reverse and get their information so you can put them on your list. So whereas you're getting more properties, or you can search for properties for them that meet their criteria. Because oftentimes every investor may not be the same as far as when they're looking for a property, how they're going to pay for it, when they want to acquire it, when they want to close. A lot of those things may be different. But this is how you build your database of people that are buying and selling all the time. You list the property that's distressed property, they're coming. Guaranteed, they're coming. All right, let's keep going. All right, you want to go to investor seminars. I just kind of talked about that a little bit. If somebody in your area is doing an investor seminar, you go. And your job at that moment is, and they think it's, and they'll say it's kind of taboo, don't pass out your business cards if you're a real estate agent, yada, yada, yada. Who cares, right? Do it in the parking lot. Do it at break. Do it at lunchtime. Whatever, right? Your job is to just talk to people that are there. Ask them about why are you deciding that you want to invest in real estate? What part of real estate do you want to focus on? Now, again, you're going to find those people that may want to do wholesaling. That's cool, but that's not really where you want to focus on as a real estate agent. All right. As far as his clients, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with somebody who wants to wholesale, but not really a good niche for a real estate investor to help that person, or a real estate agent to help that person, because they really don't need you. Or, any other types of investors, like, somebody working on tax sales or somebody, that may be a good person too, but there's rules depending on what state that you are in. If you want to work with investors that focus on tax sales, right? What do I mean by that? Well, if they purchase a tax sale, depending on what state that you're in, you may be in a state in which, there's a holding period before the person who bought the tax sale can actually be deemed the actual new owner of the property. All right, so you've got to look into that. And if you know those rules, then you'll know, is that something that I really want to focus on right now? And that's why I say fix and flip, buy and hold is pretty the same no matter where you are. All right, but you want to go to those investor seminars. Call for rent by owners. So if you subscribe to the Red X, all right, let me say this again. If you subscribe to the Red X, all right, that is that database where you can get, for sale by owners, for rent by owners, expired, all kind of different stuff, right? Of people that may be trying to buy or sell homes. People trying to sell their homes, right? So there's something in there that's called for rent by owners. Okay. And so they pull data of people that own properties that are actually putting their properties up for rent. Okay. And so they go out and they scrub those lists, they scrub those databases. And so when you have somebody who's putting up their property for rent, what do you think they are? They are an investor. They may only have one property, but you also got to know that those people may not necessarily want to keep the property, but they're just having to re-rent it out. They just may need to have to rent it out right now at this time. Okay, so if you're trying to find, hey, where can I find, people who are renting out their own properties? Well, and there's a cost associated with that list, because you probably imagine everybody be calling it, right? It can't be that easy. But there's a cost associated with, getting that kind of data. But if you are focusing on people who own property that are putting them up for rent, and again, there's other places you can get it, but if you are doing that, then for rent by owners, because they're all investors. Why? Because they're renting out something. So that deems them as an investor of some piece of property. All right. You want to pull up past foreclosure sales in the MLS and search their name, the buyer's names. All right. So if there's a portal in which you can see, okay, these were the foreclosures that were recently sold in the area, and you can either go to the tax records or go to another source and say, okay, here is the folks who, purchased the property, and then now it's your job to go and find them. All right, find that database sources. How can I get in contact with these people? And oftentimes, if they're an LLC or something like that, then it's a little bit easier sometimes to locate these people who purchase some of these foreclosure properties. But that is an awesome way to be able to get in contact with an investor, because they're buying these properties. And you can go and visit some of these properties that are recently been sold because they're going to be renovating them. And if you go there and if it's a contractor there, then you just ask the contractor, hey, where's the owner? I just want to introduce myself to them. I've done that before and had a couple of investors. Oh, yeah, he's not here right now, but what's his phone number, man? I just want to call and talk to him. They'll give you their number most of the time, or their number most of the time. So, hey, that's a good way. You can also meet, some contractor clients, that way as well. But again, that's a good way to get in front of the people that are buying and selling now. All right. You're being very strategic about your approach because you say, hey, I'm not trying to swim in this, big old ocean of, investors, and most of them aren't doing anything. I'm trying to target the people that are currently active as investors, right? The for rent by owners, they're active because they got property. The people who recently bought a foreclosure, they're active because they had that property. All right. And so, or they just recently purchased the property. All right. Craigslist. All right. Craigslist is a great way to find people that are investors. Why? Because look for those properties that are, not very expensive. And again, you can look at people that are trying to rent out properties there. You can tell oftentimes too, properties that are being sold on Craigslist that may be an investor. Call the person, say, hey, you know what, are you an investor? And I mean, don't be very intentional about it. And they'll tell you, yeah, I'm an investor. Hey, are you open to working with some other folks that can help you to acquire some more properties at a discount or, at a discounted rate? And they'll say, yeah, I am. Okay, well, great. Let's talk. Tell me about some of the things you're looking for, right? Open up the dialogue so you can get them inside of your database. All right. All right. So let's keep going. Number 6, post that you are actively seeking investor clients. All right. So different places that you interact with all the time, sometimes on social media, sometimes, in different other kind of networking groups. Make it known that you're looking for investor clients. But like I said right here, you want to be careful with this one because what you focus on, like it says in bold, what you focus on expands, right? You will find investors, but you will also find a lot of wannabe investors if you do that method right there, because you have a lot of people say, yeah, I've been thinking about investing in real estate. Yeah, I'm just trying to find out. I'm just trying to get started. I don't know what to do. Now, that person that's an investor right there, right, give them a book to have them read to try and figure it out. Because if you try and teach everybody everything about real estate investing, that's going to take up all your time, and then you're not working with active clients. Now you're being a teacher. All right. So that's what I'm saying. Hey, you want to be careful with that one, right? You want to vet somebody out, which goes into my last parts of this process that I want to drill in, because as we go into the home stretch. All right. So when you're thinking about the process, all right, of now you're working, or now you're saying, hey, I've got somebody who's saying that they want to be a real estate investor. This is great. All right. I've got somebody that I think that they may want to be that person that's looking to buy or sell real estate, on an ongoing basis. This is awesome. Right. You've got to still pre-qualify. Do not get too overzealous to where somebody says, yeah, I'm an investor. Yeah, I've got, some money, and I've got this, and this is what I'm looking for, it, because they're all scripting you. If they went to a seminar, they're giving you a script right then and there. So you've got to be careful that what you are listening to, that you can still pre-qualify this person to know, are they a serious investor, or are they scripting me? So you got to ask, who's going to outscript who? Because if you don't go back and pre-qualify them properly, then you will be that agent to go around, spend hours and hours and hours researching property, taking hours and hours and hours, going to a bunch of distressed properties. Hopefully you don't have one heels, because you'll probably fall through the floors, right? Going inside of a bunch of properties that, mold infested and whatever else may be, right? But spending all your time doing that for somebody who has no ability to purchase the property from the beginning, because you didn't do your due diligence to pre-qualify that person. All right. So go through all that process, and pre-qualifying an investor is similar to just pre-qualifying a buyer, but you're just really trying to see, hey, what is it that they're really looking for, right? And you can ask them those questions. You can tell, hey, how many properties have you invested in before? Oh, I'm just getting started. Clue number one, you might want to be careful. All right, well, kind of tell me a little bit about, what is your investment strategy? What are some of the types of properties that you want to invest in? Well, I was just kind of thinking about, starting to kind of buy some properties, kind of here. I really don't have, a specific, if it looks good, I hear that a lot. Well, if it looks good and it makes sense, well, I need to drill down a little bit more than that. Okay. So what do you mean if it looks good and if it makes sense? Well, if it just kind of makes sense, well, I've got to put in a criteria based off what it is that you're looking for. Or if not, I'm looking for everything. And that's not really it, right? So what is that max price that you want to pay to acquire a property? Now I'm trying to help them out to zero and in. All right. Well, I just kind of really don't have a budget. Okay. So if I find you a property that's $100,000 but can yield you $250 after you renovate it, and it's $30,000 renovation, you would drop $100,000 to purchase it. I'm just going to put it out there. All right. But you got to use that to pre-qualify them. And based off those answers is going to tell you, is this somebody who's a pipe dreamer or somebody who actually knows what they're doing? Or is it somebody that you've got to give some more resources to help them learn the process? All right. So number two, ensure that you vet them out. So I just kind of did it just now, right? So kind of tell me, all right, if I have a property that kind of meets your criteria, where's the down payment coming from? Are you paying with cash? Now I always start with cash, right? Because cash is king, right? Right. So are you paying with cash? Kind of tell me, how are you paying, with this? And they'll tell you about all that stuff, right? Then talk about the rehab. All right. Well, do you already have a team that's in place that you can use for the renovation? Right? What does that process kind of look like? So have that conversation. You want to vet them out. All right. Get a buyer agency agreement. This is important right there. Get a buyer agency agreement. Now, when they're in those classes, they tell them, do not sign an exclusive buyer agency agreement with anybody, because then that locks you in. That's what they're trained. But we all know that if we don't get a buyer agency agreement, then we don't get paid. And there's a possibility we don't get paid. Now, I will also tell you this, all right? Real estate investors are not loyal to anybody. They're just looking for a deal. So if you think that you're doing something because you want to trust somebody, do not trust a real estate investor. Because if somebody else, and again, there's only a certain pool of homes that meet a criteria and what we would be looking for, because we're all looking on the MLS or potentially some other small database of property. So we're all swimming in the same pool. So it's kind of like who can get to the homes faster. So if that's the case, and if you find a property that may be okay and they don't sign a buyer agency agreement with you, then what's to stop them to go into their buddy that they know that's a real estate agent and say, hey, yeah, you know what? This person sent me this property. Hey, can you help me buy it? Hey, you're my buddy, man. I've been trying to support you, right? So you've got to protect your business. And if you have an investor that doesn't want to do the business properly, then it's not somebody trust me, investors are everywhere. It is not somebody that you want to actively continue to keep doing business with. All right. So again, I want to keep going, but have the buyer agency agreement. And sometimes you may have to, with investors, a lot of times you've got to, drill that down to where sometimes it's just, okay, you know what? I'm looking for properties only in the Columbia area, or I'm looking for properties only in Irmo. I'm only looking for properties in Lexington. If I find something else in a different location, okay, great, we can talk about it. But I'm only finding properties in this small area, but I need you to hire me in order for me to be able to do the work for you, because it's a lot of work. So if you're serious about buying, I'm serious about selling. So if we can do business together, hey, let's do business together. But I need you to hire me according to the law, because, hey, you're a customer if not. But also, I'm in the business of making money, and I work with clients that are really wanting my services, because I'm going to be all in for you. All right. Sometimes you got to go there with them. All right. Let's keep going. You want to find out what their long-term strategy is, right? And that kind of goes with what is their exit strategy as the investor. Okay. And then you want to build a network to support them. Okay. Because working with an investor, if you have a network of people that's behind you that can support their business, you make more money. Because when you're asking and you're vetting them out, tell me more about your business. Or what do you need? How can I help you out? Remember, as a real estate agent, they expect you to be their support leg. to help them to make money. So if you have a support structure behind you to help them to make money, then guess what? They will use you more and more. And then they'll start to buy their personal properties with you that they want to have. And then their friends and family, they'll give to you as well. So that's what I say they're a gateway to more business if you do it right. All right. So again, working with investors, especially in a changing market, is very, very important. So you want to study them, study how they interact, so study where they are, and you want to be there. Be there for those investors so you will constantly be able to have business. So in closing, I want to show you all this page here on the Elite Business League website. All right, so if I'm on the front page, the home page on the Elite Business League website, all right, you want to be able to scroll down to a page that is called the Real Estate Investor University. Okay. And on that page, it is designed to kind of go, into some topics on working with real estate investors. But ultimately, my goal for all of you is to help you learn how to create a business, another side business for yourself too, to where you are also investing in real estate. Remember, you need to be a real estate entrepreneur. And so it's more than you just going out selling real estate. But as you're learning how to work with investors, you will get so good at it to where now you're making money. And remember, I talk about a funded proposal system, right? So now you're funding your real estate investing business where you can potentially even make even more money, right? To where you're funding your life, right? Through your real estate sales, right? And then you can use some of that money to fund your real estate investment business, to either flip more homes to make more massive amounts of money, or to funnel your money into investment vehicles to buy and hold until your exit strategy, or you could sell those properties there. But you can use that as tax strategies to fund your business and fund your life, but you're utilizing different vehicles to be able to do so. All right. Think about those strategies that I talked about tonight. Think about how you can utilize real estate investors to fund your business and make money. All right. I did some courses maybe a couple of years ago while I was teaching these strategies that Latoya and I do, and it may come back around here again next year because I've been thinking about, how do I incorporate some of those things. But if you're going to go through that process with me, I need you to be all in. And if I get about 10 of you that say, hey, Don, I'm all in, then we'll go in depth on some of those strategies on how do you vet out property, because it's really for you. When I go through that, I'll be going through it for you. So you to really learn those concepts. Yes, you'll be able to talk really well with investors, but ultimately I want you to be able to make more money as an investor. So, we'll be talking about, again, how do you vet out the properties? How do you look at the financials? How do you, look at after repair values? How do you build your team in investing? All of those different things to be able to build you Inc. in your company to where you can be able to do a lot more in real estate. So again, I'm thinking through that. Again, more than likely that we will be doing that next year. So if you want to be one of those folks that's on that team, again, I don't charge nothing for that, which I could, but mainly I want people, if I'm going to do it, then you got to be all in with me, and I'll take the time to be able to show that to you. So just more to come on that. I'm just putting in a little bug in everybody's ear. All right. So with that, hey, we talked about lots of cool stuff. We are at that 35-minute mark, exactly where I like to be. So I want to open it up for any questions that anybody may have here tonight. Please take yourself off mute to ask your questions if you got them, or put them inside of the chat. Sometimes people like to throw it in and text me along the way, but I prefer for people to ask me the questions so everybody can hear them. So I'll just kind of pause right now and open it up for any questions that anybody may have. Any questions at all, I'm here for y'all. And if it's not even about these topics that we talked about tonight, that's fine. But let's just kind of talk through what's on your mind.
Hey, Don, I got something kind of on my mind.
Okay, go ahead.
So you're talking about different ways you can find these investors and everything, and you kind of alluded to RedX or maybe like some websites that they kind of congregate on for looking up fish boats and stuff like that. What are good sources to find like investors online?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, you can even Google some of those, right? If you've said like investor forums and stuff like that, but Bigger Pockets is one investor forum that is out there. It's one of the most well known, and I mean, you can learn so much about investing by just spending time on BiggerPockets.com. They have a lot of videos that they put on there as well, where you can just stay on there just for hours and hours and hours, just learning about investment strategies, because there's investors that are there because it's kind of like a big network, right? You can join some Facebook groups, put in, real estate investor, in Facebook, and there's a lot of Facebook groups that you can just kind of join and just be present in looking and read about some of the stories that some of the investors are going through, and that's a great way to be able to learn, hands on what's going on. But I really say BiggerPockets.com is a great place for you to start. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. But then again, where you want to go on Facebook, just put in like real estate investor and lots of different forums to pop up. I'll say, man, join as many of them as you can that has a good following of people. All right. I got a question in the chat. On RedX, is there a price for all of the access? Because I saw the for rent by owner access alone is $79.99. Yes, it is. And so of course, depending on what you want to get out of the RedX, right? So if you want to go to the RedX for some of you and utilize that database source to find, expired listings, there's a charge for that, because, they're pulling that data, they're scrubbing it through the do not call list. But they're pulling all that data through all their resources, whether they're expired listings or FISBOs, pre-foreclosures, geo leads, all that. I mean, it can get pretty pricey, but you've got to have a source. So great question, Rochelle. You got to have a source to be able to call those people. You're just kind of wasting your money, right? But it is not one of those things where you'll be, calling people one time. That's not how that works. All right. And then now you magically have money, because if it was that easy, then it'd be game over, right? For everybody, right? Because all the big people are selling thousands and thousands of homes every single year. They've just been eating up that, right? So you got to have a method, if you're going to utilize those sources, to be able to call and keep following up and following up and following up, because it's like all of us, a lot of people, they don't recognize the number, they ain't going to answer the phone, right? Even though they have their property for rent. It's like they're even hard to get in contact with, right? But the data is out there. But yes, that is one of the ones that is a little more expensive, but it's a good way. Now, a lot of them that are just, posting their properties out there for rent, they really want to rent. But then some don't want to rent. They just found themselves in that area in which now they have to rent out properties. But at any rate, to go back to what we were talking about, finding investors, anybody that's going to put a property up for rent, clearly they're investing in something, and hopefully they're wanting to invest in more than just that one property that they have for rent. All right. I know it's a long answer to that question, but yeah, it is more cost associated with it. With some of the other services. Now, the good news is, if you do want to use a RedX for some of the other services, they do give you some bundle discounts. But you just call them, and then they can kind of work that through if that's what you want to do. Okay. But a cheaper source is just going to, Craigslist or some of those other places and just start a dialogue with some of them. You don't need trust me, everybody, you do not need, you don't want a bunch of investors, in your database, because a lot of them won't be doing it. You want to find a good, 3 to 5 that are actively doing stuff. And where you can find those people is, again, some of the sources that I posted. And when you got about 3 to 5 that are actively doing stuff, you'll be good. Because if you have any more than that, then you're gonna be spinning your wheels, spending more time researching properties, and then you end up finding yourself, because what you don't ever want to do is have some property and now you're blasting it to all of your investors that you have. Remember, you're an agent, and if they're really truly your clients, you don't want to do that, because you'll find if somebody says, "Well, Don, show me this property," and you blasted it out, 6, 7 investors that are active. Now all of them want to do it. Now if all of them, even half of them, want to put in an offer, how do you work that out now? That is tough, and so, you want to be in a situation where, okay, you make one of them make a decision. And even if you got to do a round robin or something, because you're just, trying to help them out. Right. So, just be careful when you have to approach that. All right. All right. So another question that I have is, for landowners that are wanting to sell acres, how do you suggest we approach them to become their agent? Kind of same thing. If you have somebody that when you're selling land, understand that, selling land is different from selling a home, right? You've got to know, some of the nuances that are out there, when you're selling land, right? By way of, percolation tests, the different other types of zoning that may be acquired. Is the property, that they own, is it, zone residential, is it zone commercial? There's different types of commercial. There's different types of properties that can go on residential land. So land is not just land, right? So you just want to be careful when you're approaching that. Is it developed or undeveloped, right? If it is undeveloped, right, how easy is it for them to be able to develop it? Is it by city sewer, city water, right? Or is it something where they may have to put a septic tank on there? If so, that's where the percolation test kind of comes in. So I'm saying all of these things, just to say, when you learn this information, as far as the land, then you know how to approach those folks. But just know that, when you approach those folks, hopefully you'll have an investor that's behind you, that's ready to buy it, right? But specifically, how do you, find those owners? It's the same way that you would be able to find an owner, for some other different types of property, right? I mean, you can find the name of the owner from the tax records, and, you can, either trying to research, them, oftentimes now you find people's phone numbers online, or, if you are utilizing one of those services, you may be able to find a valid number because, you can upload their information in like the Redx, and it may pop up. Or, you can find their address somewhere and potentially send them some information, maybe a letter that you're trying to, help them out or something like that. And, they have a vacant piece of land. I mean, so those are just some ways in which you can do it, by way of, trying to contact them. But I found somebody who owned some land by just Googling the name, because the name was just that, unique. And interestingly enough, the name popped up. And I put in the area, and actually I put in the address of the property, because somebody had to close it, and just so happened that person's phone number popped right on up. So they had it listed somewhere, and I was able to call them and kind of talk to them about it. So that's just some of the ways in which you have to. So yeah, you have to do a little bit of research, but you can actually find it. And if you can't, you at least from the tax records have some kind of address to be able to send them some information that you're, trying to get in contact with them. Okay. All right. So, any other questions y'all got? So great questions. These are some of the things that we have to do as agents to be involved and open up the doors to our business. Right. So, I always, love it, when I have these types of questions that come out, because they're saying, hey, we're trying to think outside of, the box. All right. I will say this, and for all of you that want to ever be inside of the commercial space, I'm giving you an introduction right now of what being in the commercial space is like, right? Because, think about this. working with investors, everybody in the commercial space is an investor. Almost 100% of the people you talk to in the commercial space is an investor, right? So if somebody wants to buy a multi-family unit, they are an investor automatically. That's who you deal with, right? If you're selling a property, a commercial property for somebody, they are an investor, okay? Because they bought an investment, all right? So, I'm telling all of you this for a reason, right? Somebody asked me earlier today, I was at a networking event, in between all the many things that I had to do, but I was at a networking event today because I was asked to come and kind of speak on, some topics there. But, I was asked today, Don, how did you get involved in commercial real estate? Right. And, I told him, I said, yes, Keller Williams has some trainings, but really a lot of it has to do with my background from real estate investing, because I was able to speak the lingo and understood the financials and how to vet out properties from being a real estate investor. And I actively was involved in that space. And from that point, that was the starting block to when then I just had to fill in the gaps from the different types of commercial properties that I was, able to help somebody buy and sell, right? Because I understood that space. All right. And then, of course, who you have to talk to from that point. That's where all the trainings kind of come in the legal stuff, the mumbo jumbo. But that's where it's coming. So I really want people to get an understanding, because understanding how to work with investors opens up the doors. Because some of these investors that you talk to, they're going to own strip malls. They're going to own multifamily, right? And when I say multifamily, I'm not talking about 4 units. I'm talking about 20, 30, 40, 50 units, right? They're going to own these things and know other people that may own these things. So get comfortable in the space, everybody. And you will see that the doors in your business will start to open up a little, a whole lot more, because now you're working with people that are constantly buying and selling. All right. So any other questions before we end this call here tonight? Any other questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, or anything that's cool that's been happening, at all over this past week? Anything at all? All right, cool. Hey, everyone, we're in like the second week, I think it is, of November, right? So we are coming to an end. We're inching away every single day to the end of 2019. The past couple months I've been talking about how you end is going to be how you begin. So you've got to have a lot of momentum right now, because there's so many agents that kind of took their foot off the gas. Do not take your foot off the gas. All right. Have your plan, execute on it every single day. I'll tell you, man, if you see what Toya and I are like every single day, you'll be like, oh my goodness. I mean, we're like going at 100 miles an hour. Of course, we have our times of rest and peace or whatever, but we're going at 100 miles an hour, because we know that how you end is going to be how you begin. Understand that real estate is in a 90-day cycle. All right. So constantly lead generate every single day to keep your pipeline going and keeping it filled, and get into your groove, get into your thing, everything we've been talking about, everybody. And you will see that your business will take flight. I talk about that all the time. All right. I'm so happy and excited to see what everybody's business is, and all the growth that everybody's had, all the growth that I've had by working with everybody. The part of the elite business, it's been a blessing. 2019 has been a blessing, but the best is truly yet to come. Really, 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 the best is truly yet to come. I see, another kind of message, kind of going towards me. So Rochelle, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more kind of offline, about that. But hey, everybody, again, if you need something, we'll talk through it. But keep studying this stuff. Be a student of the game, but be your own CEO and creating you Inc. every single day. All right. So hey, with that, I appreciate everything that everybody does each and every day, your hard work, your innovation, and everything else. So take care, take charge. Hey, everybody, I'll see you at the top. Everybody have a great, great week. Bye-bye.